Hi, and welcome to our interview series, Radical Truth Telling for Radical Times. My name is Saparna Basine, and I'm a women's empowerment coach, and I run a business called She Creates Change in herself and in the world. And right now, we're living in such a turbulent time. At times, it even feels like everything is a bit surreal. It can't even be happening. But it is. So what we're doing is interviewing a series of really powerful women that are making change in the world, that are influencing the people around them, their community, even more greater than that. So I have Tabby Biddle here today. She is a women's rights advocate, a leadership coach, and she's also a leadership ambassador with Take the Lead Women, which she'll be talking a little bit more about later. So Tabby, I'm going to be asking you a bunch of questions today. First, I just want to say thank you so much for coming out and doing this with me and for allowing women to get to know you. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions. And the first one is this. I do know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Did you march? And if you did, how was that for you? Can you tell us a bit about your experience?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be part of this conversation and this movement that you are growing and expanding, Saparna. The answer is yes. I did march. I went to Washington, D.C. for the Women's March.
Okay.
And it was beyond my expectations, beyond everyone's expectations, right? I was very much called to march specifically in Washington. I lived in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I had intended to be in Washington anyway at that point when I thought Hillary Clinton would be inaugurated. I was planning on covering some of the inaugural events as a reporter. So my intention was to be there, but under much different circumstances.
Right, of course.
And so shortly after the march was announced, I said, okay, I will be there. But I did have hesitations, actually, in terms of being there in the company, in the air of Trump's inauguration.
Yeah.
That concerns me. I wasn't sure if I was ready for that.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I do live a bit in a bubble here in Los Angeles and Santa Monica because there are so many progressives. So that was a big deal, actually, to go to D.C. and be riding the metro with Trump supporters, all wearing those red hats, sitting next to Trump supporters out at restaurants with children wearing those red hats. It was that in itself was a big deal. Secondarily, though, the spirit of the sisterhood was so fantastic. Previous to the march, I spent a bit of time at the Women's National Democratic Club in D.C. in the DuPont Circle area. And we were making sashes to wear for the march. This was the day before the march, and signs and so forth. And it was just a beautiful experience. Women of all ages, women of all colors. Even at one point, one of the young women, she was probably about 16, 17, she began to sing. We Shall Overcome. And then it went into a few other songs, This Little Light of Mine. And John Lennon, the Imagine, speaking about peace. And it was beautiful, and all the women joined in. And this was the day before the march. So it's like that already showed us the energy that was going to be coming the next day. And to sum that up, it helped me connect with the sisterhood at a much deeper level. That's what the Women's March did for me personally, and I think did for many women and men. To connect at this cross section, at the intersection of civil rights amongst all groups.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it was a big day, and I just had another conversation with someone, and she said, she really feels like we've been activated in a new way. So I'd be curious to know, Tabby, what do you think is going on for us as a collective, whether it's spiritually or politically or in whatever way? How would you describe the time that we're in?
I think we're in a time of deep polar splits. Maybe do it this way. I'm going off screen, but it is equal. I mean, I guess I do need to do it horizontally because it is equal. The kind of, to put it simply, kind of the forces of ego and the forces of good. Yeah. And I feel that as you use the word activated, we're activating a lot of light, a lot of activism, a lot of force for good, and at the same time, that light is casting light on a lot of our shadow material. And, we all know we've lived within a patriarchal, misogynistic culture, but now it's like really out there. And so, and aside from the misogyny, the racism, the disregard for Gaia, for our earth, the regard for power over, right? That's what's being, or sorry, over here, because I talked about this being those darker forces, versus the force for humanity, the well-being and the thriving of humanity. So here we are, and my feeling is that we are collectively at a place where the feminine is rising, no doubt, in women and men. Yeah. And my feeling is that as she rises more and more, that we actually will move more toward a place of gender equity, gender parity, respect for women, regard for women. And that will bring us in a place where we will have a more balanced society, where people are more caring and compassionate, and we can start to eliminate things like war, right? I really do believe we can live in a peaceful society. We can, people who are living in poverty can begin to rise as well. And I believe we can live in a more, it sounds a little Pollyanna, but more a beautiful and thriving and prosperous and healthy society worldwide.
Yeah, beautiful. I imagine for the people that are feeling maybe scared or confused, I think that really helps, Tabby. Thank you. My next question is this, and you're, like we said, a huge women's advocate and doing a lot of work in the women's space. What do you think is the role of women right now? What is it we're supposed to be doing? A post-March, right? Because you may have marched, you may be posting on Facebook, but what is the real work that we have to do?
Mm-hmm. We need to be speaking up, whether it's in our homes, whether it's in our workplaces, whether it's at a governmental level. Those of us who feel the instinct to run for political office, to follow that call. I'm attending an event tomorrow called Ready to Run, which is here in Los Angeles, supporting women who are feeling that call to run for local office and eventually national office. Barbara Boxer is our keynote speaker. For women to run for office, only if that's what you feel called toward. Okay, that doesn't mean everyone has to run for office, but every woman has a role in this rising of the feminine. And like I said, it could be in her home, in her workplace, to speak up for what her instincts are, those areas where she feels like, this just isn't right. This should be and can be different, right? Instead of holding on to that, catch that thought and say, it's time to speak up about this. So my work is about helping women find their voice and then use it out in the world, in their communities and on larger platforms. And I can't stress that enough. That's what we should be doing now. And it doesn't even have to be more complicated than that.
Yeah, amazing. As you were talking, I was thinking, Tabby, if you ran, I would definitely vote for you. I don't know if that's ever crossed your mind, but I was just having that thought. My next question is this. I'd love for you to tell the people that are listening what you do, what work you're doing in the world, maybe more about Take the Lead, I think it's called. If you can just tell us about how you're mobilizing change in the world.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for asking that. And thank you for your vote if I someday decide to run, which is, I feel that in my eventual path. That's so I'm happy and excited about that. So what I'm doing right now, I have a big focus on the United Nations.
Right.
I just recently returned from the UN Commission on the Status of Women in New York at the UN headquarters, where women from around the world come to basically not just talk about, but hold the UN accountable to its goals for gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls.
Yeah,
and
great.
This year's specific focus was the economic empowerment of women, women in the changing workplace. So I've just returned from that about a week ago. And one of my goals there was to meet the people that I needed to meet in order to start bringing Take the Lead into the UN system itself. Okay, I went in with the thinking that, okay, wonderful. The UN has many outstanding goals for creating gender equality worldwide. But how are they really going to do it if they don't have that within their own system, right? Within their own home.
Yeah.
So the work that I do, to tell you a little more about Take the Lead Women, we are dedicated to preparing, developing, inspiring, and propelling women to take their fair and equal share of leadership positions across all sectors by 2025.
Wow, amazing.
2025, very specific. And some women are working in the corporate arena, some women are working in the nonprofit. I feel particularly drawn to the United Nations.
Yeah, amazing.
That's where I'm focusing my energy. So I'm actually going next week to New York to be meeting with a couple of leaders from UN Women to discuss how can we partner together? How can Take the Lead Women and UN Women partner together so we can help accelerate the progress towards gender parity within the UN system itself?
Yeah,
because women, they've had a goal since 1996. This is 20 years ago. The UN has set goals for gender parity in senior leadership and decision making. They haven't budged much.
Yeah.
Sorry, 20 years. They're right now at 21%, which is common for most every sector right now, right?
Yeah.
It's actually 18% women in leadership. So it's not that hard to do. I mean, Justin Trudeau in Canada, right? He's created 50-50 in his cabinet. Eric Garcetti here, the mayor in Los Angeles, he has created 50-50, 50-50 within the board and commissions, which are the senior leadership positions within a city government. So I just wrote an article about what the UN can learn from Los Angeles about gender parity.
Yeah.
So I'm using my voice in that way. I use my voice as a writer. I'm pursuing this work with the UN. I'm hopeful that someone will say yes and that we will put together a contract and a program and start moving forward.
Yeah, great.
And I'm out there speaking to women's groups to help activate women to realize that they do have a political voice.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. Tabby, thank you so much for all of the work you're doing. And my last question is this. What advice would you give to a woman that's maybe sitting on the sidelines, not sure how to get engaged, knows she has a purpose, but hasn't really stepped into it yet? What would you want to say to her?
I'd want to say to her, number one, find a women's circle or a women's group to be involved with. You're going to find motivation and inspiration and courage by being with other women and speaking your truth to other women. Then they will support you. They will encourage you. They will cheer you on, and you will collaborate. You will find a cross-section of other women who have similar ideals to you, and then you will all support each other to move forward. Yeah. I think every woman needs that base.
Absolutely.
Now.
I mean, that is the work that I used to do in New York, and I saw it happening with women's circles and how powerful it was when they came together, because once you're in a community and in a tribe, it's harder to get left behind. You have that support that even when you feel like you can't do it, the group will carry you. So, and we're going to be doing more of that also virtually to be able to hold more and more women. So Thank you for saying that, Tabby, because I totally agree with you. Well, this was wonderful. Thank you so much. I think we can find you at tabbybiddle.com.
That's correct.
So please visit Tabby. You've also written a book, I remember. Isn't it Find Your Voice?
It's called Find Your Voice, a Woman's Call to Action.
Great. So I think that's on your website as well. If somebody wants to look at that, they can visit your website.
Yep.
Awesome.
Right.
Thank you so much. We're all sending you so much luck for New York, and you're in our hearts and minds. And again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Suparna.
Okay.